Welcome to Literary Journeys with River. In today's video, we bring you an exciting illustrated summary of The Assassin and the Healer, the second story in Sarah J. Maas's book, The Assassin's Blade. Join us to discover how two brave women find their destiny in a small, dangerous port. Remember, this is just a summary, so if you want to know all the details, we recommend reading the entire book. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The strange young woman had arrived at the White Pig 2 days ago. Her fine, dark clothes, heavy hood, and assortment of weapons made her stand out among the regulars. Nolan, the innkeeper, gave her the best room, usually reserved for wealthy clients. He didn't care about the knives or the gold brooch with a large ruby she wore, as a gold coin was enough to keep his mouth shut. Nolan feared no one as long as they could pay, and the young woman had shown enough wealth to keep his attention focused only on her money. Yrene Towers, one of the barmaids, had been watching the young woman from behind the bar. The stranger sat at the back table with such stillness that it was impossible not to notice her. Despite wearing a black cloak, a golden braid could be seen emerging from it. The inn, the best place in the small port of Inish, didn't offer much in terms of luxury or cleanliness, but it was the only refuge for Yrene, who had been working there for a year. The mysterious young woman raised her head and signaled for Yrene to bring her another beer. Despite not seeming more than 20 years old, the girl drank surprising amounts without ever losing her composure. Yrene brought her beer, water, and bread, as the young woman hadn't touched the stew she was served. The girl thanked her curtly, with a deep, cultured voice that suggested an educated past. As Yrene navigated the tavern, dodging customers' hands, she thought about how she had ended up working there. Nolan had given her a job when she was desperate, offering her a bed and a few coins. Most of her money came from tips, which Nolan and another barmaid, Jessa, took a large part of. Celaena Sardothien, the young woman at the table, was at the inn hating every moment. At 16, she was the most famous assassin in the Adarlan Empire, although no one here knew or should know that. Her master, Yrene Towers, had sent her here as punishment for ruining a slave trade deal. Celaena had saved 200 slaves, earning enemies and Yrene's wrath. This mission to the desert lands was her punishment, and the only way to get there was to wait for a ship in this despicable port. Celaena felt frustrated, with the wounds and bruises from Yrene's beating as a reminder of her betrayal. She had gotten into several fights during her journey, using her fists and feet to vent her anger. She watched the men in the inn, hoping someone would try to steal the ruby brooch she wore, a gift from Yrene. However, no one had dared. Although Celaena was tempted to abandon her mission and escape to the southern continent, she knew Yrene would hunt her down. She also wasn't sure about the fate of her companion Sam, who had also suffered for her betrayal. Thus, with her mind full of doubts and her blood boiling with fury, Celaena prepared to endure another night at the inn, with unease and danger lurking in the air. Chapter 2. Yrene noticed a change in the atmosphere at the White Pig. The tension in the air was palpable, as if the men gathered there were expecting something. The hooded young woman remained at her table, her fingers drumming on the battered wood, occasionally lifting her head to survey the place. The barmaid couldn't leave. There were still 40 minutes until the last round, and she would have to stay another hour to clean up and get the drunk customers out. Nolan, the innkeeper, had disappeared moments before, and Jessa was still flirting on a sailor's lap, unaware of the shift in the air. Many in the tavern were watching the hooded young woman, waiting for her to make a move. Yrene recognized some thieves who had been lurking around for 2 days, trying to decipher if the stranger knew how to use the weapons she carried. They knew she would leave at dawn, so this night would be their last chance to rob her. Yrene, struggling with her internal dilemmas, considered warning the young woman that it might be wise to leave immediately. But she knew Nolan would kick her out if she did, as many of those lowlifes were valuable customers. She remembered her mother, a healer who always helped those in need, but who was burned alive by Adarlan soldiers. Her mother's bravery contrasted with her own situation, trapped in desperation to keep her job at the inn. Lost in her thoughts, Yrene didn't notice the man's hand until it gripped her waist. She tried to break free, claiming she had work to do, but the men insisted she could work on them. Yrene lied, saying she was going home with her husband, and managed to return behind the bar without warning the hooded young woman. 40 minutes remained until the last round, and she hoped the time would pass without incident. Meanwhile, Celaena Sardothien, the hooded young woman, felt insulted by not being attacked. She had hoped someone would try to rob or confront her, but nothing happened. Bored and looking for distraction, she considered going out into the streets. Her mind returned to Sam, her companion punished for his role in freeing the slaves. She thought about the temptation to escape to another destination, but she knew Arabin would hunt her down. With those thoughts, Celaena went up to her room, disappointed not to find any confrontation. After pacing in her room, she decided to go out in search of adventure. Meanwhile, Yrene was taking out the trash to the alley, reflecting on her life and her dream of becoming a healer in Antica. Her journey had stopped in Inish due to lack of money, and she stayed working at the inn to save what she needed to continue. But that dream had faded, trapped by circumstances and Nolan's exploitation. Yrene heard footsteps in the alley and, thinking they were street children, discovered the mercenaries from before. She tried to return to the door, but one of the men stopped her, gripping her tightly. When they demanded her earned tips, Yrene didn't know whether to fight or cry, but she didn't have to decide. A stifled scream and the disappearance of one of the men into the mist alerted the others. As another drew his sword, a dark figure emerged from the mist, silently taking down the second man. The mercenary leader challenged the figure, who responded with a deep laugh. The hooded figure, with 2 bloody daggers in hand, emerged from the mist. It was the young stranger, ready to face the mercenaries and protect Yrene. Chapter 3. Yrene breathed heavily as she watched the girl approach the 2 remaining attackers. The first mercenary, holding her, laughed, but the other, near the door, had wide eyes. Yrene cautiously backed away. The mercenary with the raised sword asked if she had killed his men, to which the girl replied they had only received what they deserved. The mercenary lunged at her, but the girl was prepared. Yrene, unable to move, watched the confrontation. The fight was swift. With impressive agility, the girl knocked the man out in seconds. Yrene turned towards the mercenary at the door, but he was already fleeing. The stranger emerged from the mist, her daggers clean but still drawn, and Yrene, trembling, pleaded for her life. The girl just laughed and asked what the point of saving her would be if she were going to kill her. Celaena hadn't planned to save the barmaid. She simply got lucky finding the mercenaries looking for a fight. She followed them to the alley and found the girl in danger. The fight ended too quickly for her liking, and when the last mercenary escaped, she didn't bother to chase him. The barmaid, trembling, pointed out that she was bleeding. Celaena noticed the small red stain on her arm, a superficial cut that would heal soon. She turned to seek more action, but the barmaid offered to bandage her wound. Celaena wanted to shake the girl for staying in a dangerous alley, but instead, she headed towards the White Pig's door. The barmaid mentioned the healing goddess Silba, saying her mother had been a healer and taught her some things. Celaena paused, considering her offer. The girl insisted she had to pay her debt. Celaena, annoyed, told her she shouldn't apologize to anyone and should have been smarter staying at the inn that night. The girl, visibly affected, shrank a bit. However, she took a deep breath and, with a firmer voice, offered again to clean the wound. The determination in her voice was enough for Celaena to accept and follow her inside, leaving the mercenaries' bodies in the alley, knowing that no one, except rats and scavengers, would care about them in this town. Chapter 4. Yrene led the wounded girl to her small room under the stairs, avoiding the upper floor for fear that the escaped mercenary might be waiting. She didn't want more fights, deaths, or blood. Moreover, the stranger who had saved her made her nervous. She left her sitting on her bed and went to get water and bandages, even though it would be deducted from her pay. Upon returning, Yrene was surprised to see the girl had removed her hood and tunic, revealing a beauty marred by numerous bruises and a swollen eye. The girl, with golden hair and blue eyes, watched her silently, still as a cat. Yrene, not daring to ask, began cleaning the girl's arm wound. Despite her youth, her muscles were hard and her body covered in scars, carrying the marks with a sort of pride. The healer apologized for not warning about the herbs in the water that stung. The girl, however, showed no discomfort and commented she had been through worse. Yrene believed her. The scars spoke for themselves. She asked her name, but the girl refused to reveal it. Yrene introduced herself as Yrene Towers, but the girl showed no interest. Finally, the girl, curious but dismissive, asked why a healer's daughter was in this forgotten town. Yrene explained she had run out of money on her way to Antica, where she planned to study at the healer's academy. The girl was not kind and suggested she would rather starve in Antica's streets than stay there. Yrene, without a proper response, just shrugged. The girl advised, sarcastically, that she should steal the money and leave. Yrene rejected the idea, claiming she was not a thief. The girl, however, insisted she should take what she wanted. In a change of tone, the girl asked when she lost her mother. Yrene replied it had been over 8 years, during hard times for healers with magic in Fenharrow, due to the king of Adarlan. The girl, whose eyes burned with contained rage, asked what she would do after studying at the Cesme Tower. Yrene expressed her desire to return to Fenharrow to help those in need, albeit cautiously. The girl, surprised, could only say it was the right thing, but Yrene felt the stranger did not fully understand her. The girl prepared to leave, but Yrene offered to treat the wounds on her face. The girl refused the offer, explaining they were reminders for herself. Before leaving, the girl suggested Yrene learn to defend herself and offered to teach her some maneuvers. Yrene, hesitant, accepted. Celaena, as the girl was called, took her to an alley to teach her. She showed her how to defend and attack vulnerable points on an assailant's body. Although Yrene struggled at first, she gradually mastered the techniques. Celaena also gave her tips on deterring attackers, making noise and shouting, "Fire," instead of asking for help. As they practiced, Yrene gained confidence and began to hold her head higher. When they finished, Celaena suggested Yrene teach these techniques to other women. Yrene, grateful, asked how she could repay her, but Celaena declined with a gesture. Just then, they felt more men approaching in the alley. Yrene, fearful, obeyed Celaena's silent order and returned to the inn, leaving the young warrior ready to face the new enemies. Chapter 5. In the darkness of the kitchen, Yrene leaned against the back door, her heart pounding as she listened to the sounds of a fight outside. The noises of swords and screams filtered through the door, mixed with grunts and thuds. Despite the fear that gripped her, her concern for the girl outside led her to open the door a crack to peek. What she saw took her breath away. The mercenary who had escaped had returned, this time with more experienced reinforcements. 2 of his men were already on the ground, surrounded by pools of blood, while the other 3 fought against the girl, who moved with impressive agility and lethality, like a black wind. Before she could process the scene, Yrene felt a hand covering her mouth and a cold blade pressing against her throat. A man, who had entered through the inn, held her tightly. In a rough voice, he ordered her to walk, guiding her to the alley with the dagger still at her neck. The young woman, seeing Yrene in danger, stopped fighting and observed her attackers and her captor. With a calmness that bordered on the cold, she challenged them to disarm her. Her captor, laughing derisively, pressed the blade harder, making Yrene feel the wetness of her own blood. The young woman, without lowering her weapon, gave Yrene a defiant look, as if telling her to defend herself, to fight for her life. Desperation and anger began to fill Yrene. She remembered her mother, who had fought and died to give her a chance to live. She couldn't give up now, not like this. With a burst of rage, Yrene stomped hard on her captor's foot, then raised her arms and pushed the dagger with one hand while elbowing him in the abdomen. The man doubled over in pain, and she took the opportunity to elbow him in the temple, making him fall to his knees. Yrene ran, but the girl was already there, smiling with satisfaction, with the two men lying still on the ground. The young woman dragged the remaining mercenary into the mist, and a muffled scream followed by a dull thud echoed in the air. Yrene, still trembling, barely managed to take a few steps before vomiting. When she regained her composure, the young woman commented she had learned quickly, implying her bravery and skill had been tested. Yrene, furious, scolded her for allowing the man to capture her. The young woman, with a mischievous smile, explained she wanted her to practice in a controlled environment. Despite her anger and lingering fear, Yrene acknowledged she had been able to defend herself. The young woman, in a final piece of advice, warned her to wash the blood off her clothes and not tell anyone what had happened, as those men might have more allies. With that, the young woman disappeared into the inn, leaving Yrene alone with her fear and fury, still trembling from what had happened. Chapter 6. Yrene followed the girl's advice and changed her clothes, washing the blood from her dress with trembling hands in the kitchen. As dawn began to light up the room, she hung the wet clothes in her room, fearing someone might suspect upon seeing them. She resigned herself to pretending she had found the bodies, mentally preparing for the long and exhausting day ahead. When she finished, she noticed a leather bag on her bed with a note underneath. She opened it and found a considerable amount of gold coins and a brooch with a ruby. The note, written in elegant handwriting, said, "For where you need to go, and everything else. The world needs more dreamers." Yrene was stunned, imagining the girl's smile and provocation when writing those words. Confused and excited, Yrene emptied the bag and observed the small fortune before her. She remembered her mother's words about the gods, questioning whether they had really disappeared or if it was some divine whisper that had led the girl to that alley. She felt that destiny had given her a gift and an opportunity to fulfill her dreams. An hour later, Yrene left the White Pig Inn without looking back, firmly determined to change her life. On the other hand, Celaena, after an exhausting night, boarded a ship at dawn. She felt hollow and nauseous, but she knew she needed to sleep to regain strength before facing the challenging desert lands and reaching the silent assassin's fortress. The captain asked no questions when she paid him with a silver coin, and Celaena went to her cabin undisturbed. Before leaving the inn, Celaena had reflected on the conditions in which Yrene lived. Despite her initial intention to leave a few coins, she decided to be more generous, motivated by a feeling of empathy towards the young healer. So, she left nearly all her gold coins and Araban's ruby brooch, hoping Yrene would use them to fund her education. Celaena, believing in the influence of a higher force or perhaps just in human kindness, left the inn silently. She prayed that Yrene wouldn't mention the money to anyone and would take control of her life, heading to the city of Antica to fulfill her dreams of becoming a healer. With a smile, Celaena settled into her bed and, as the ship set sail, let herself drift into sleep, satisfied with her act of generosity. Thank you for joining us on this literary journey. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more illustrated summaries of your favorite books. Like, share, and comment. What would you do if you found yourself in a dark alley like Yrene? Would you like to learn to defend yourself like Celaena? We'd love to read your responses. Until the next adventure on Literary Journeys with River.